Chapter 8. Arya. Arya carried her lunch tray to the register in the cafeteria. When the lady told her how much she owed, Arya hesitated. She never needed money, but money was a thing, and she was pretty good at making things out of nothing. So she dug her hand into the pocket of her skirt and willed the money to be there, and a second later produced a fistful of cash and coins. She handed it over to the lunch lady without counting, and the lunch lady marveled at the fact it was exactly the right amount of money. Not a penny more, not a penny less. Smart pockets, explained Arya with a smile. The noise in the cafeteria was deafening. Arya saw that Gabby had already gotten her food and was standing at the edge of the sea of tables. She was clutching her tray and looking terrified. The blue smoke swirled nervously around her shoulders. Arya had to admit, the cafeteria was daunting, but Gabby didn't have to face it alone. She bumped Gabby's elbow. Let's find a seat. They snagged a small table in the corner of the room. Everything on your plate is red, observed Gabby. Arya looked at her plate. It was true. She'd grabbed an apple and some kind of pasta with sauce, and a bowl of jello, even though it scared her. She'd never eaten before. She knew she didn't strictly need to eat, but it looked enjoyable. Besides, she was a student now. Other students ate, but her tray was looking less and less appetizing. I thought it would be fun, she explained, to pick by color. She poked the jello with a fork. Everything was so bright and pretty piece by piece, but altogether it's kind of a mess. Arya thought about the way she felt seeing herself for the first time. The whole so much better than the parts. I guess food doesn't really work like people. Gabby looked at Arya like she'd said a strange thing, but then smiled. So, Arya Blue, she said. That's a really cool name. Arya beamed. Thanks! She was pretty proud of it. She hadn't realized when she'd imagined her name on the roster, and she'd need to. At first, she'd been at a total loss, but then she'd seen the bracelet and thought, blue. It was the color of smoke that circled those marked for her. It was part of her identity, just like a name. I really like yours, too, she told Gabby. Gabby shrugged. It's a family name. Gabrielle. It's my grandmother's name, and my aunt's, and like 4 other relatives. When that many people have something, it starts to feel a little less special. There may be other Gabriellas, said Arya, but there's only one Gabby. Actually, I'm pretty sure there are other Gabbys too, said Gabby. Arya ran a hand through her hair and accidentally snagged her charm bracelet. What I mean, she said, tugging it free, is that there's only one you, only one me, and we get to be whoever we want. And no one can be like us, like we can. Isn't that exciting? Gabby gave a half smile. You're really different. One of a kind, said Arya with a wink. So, she poked at the jello again. Is Grand Heights Middle School everything you wanted it to be? Gabby shrugged lightly, but Arya watched the smoke coil and twist around her. My mom wanted to homeschool me, said Gabby. She thought it would be easier, and maybe it would have been, but I begged her not to. Gabby picked at her food. It wouldn't be homeschooling, it would be hospital schooling. And I thought, if I was trapped in that place all day, every day, I'd just disappear. But I'm here, surrounded by all these new kids, and I still feel kind of invisible. I see you, said Arya, but I know what you mean. You do? Arya gave a somber nod. I've been invisible. It's awful. Gabby looked surprised. I mean, not literally, of course, amended Arya hastily. But you're so bright, said Gabby. Arya looked down at herself. I guess so. I didn't mean it in a bad way, said Gabby. It's just that you stand out. I wish I did. Arya shrugged. I wear these colors because they make me happy, not because they make me stand out. I don't really think wearing loud clothes is the only way to be loud. I mean, sure, she added. If you go around wearing neon pink pajamas, people are going to look at you. But that doesn't mean you're going to be seen. Arya took a cautious bite of her apple. I think there's a difference. Maybe, said Gabby. I don't really want to be loud. I just don't want to be invisible. Gabby's eyes escaped to her tray. Arya looked around. Well, the cafeteria is full of people. Why don't we make friends with some of them? Gabby gave her a withering look. It's not that easy. Why not? Gabby chewed her lip. Because it's not. Not for me. It'll be fine. Come on. Arya sprung up from the table, but Gabby grabbed her arm. Please don't, said Gabby, shaking her head. Please don't make a scene. Arya didn't understand, but Gabby seemed genuinely worried, so she sat back down. What Gabby needed was a little confidence, a chance to stand out in her own way. Arya watched as Gabby hurriedly finished eating and then pulled a printed flyer out of her bag. What's that? Asked Arya, trying to read upside down. It's a club list. Didn't you get one with your class schedule? Arya shook her head. They must have left mine out, she said, which wasn't strictly a lie. What's it for? Grand Heights Middle has a bunch of after-school clubs, said Gabby. You can pick one. And I was thinking that maybe... She looked down at the list and shrugged. I don't know. Maybe it's lame, but... This is perfect, said Arya brightly. It is? Asked Gabby, surprised. Arya nodded and plucked the list out of Gabby's hands. There was more than a dozen choices. Cheerleading, painting, pottery, track, dance. Perfect, she echoed to herself. Gabby could find her own way to stand out. Which one are you going to pick? Arya asked, handing the sheet back. Gabby shook her head. I don't know. We have all week to try them out before we have to decide. Do you think you'll do one too? Arya could hear the hope in her question. Yeah, sure, said Arya. Sounds like fun. Which one do you think you'll choose? Arya hesitated. She didn't want to sway Gabby. Tell you what, she said. I'm not picky. Whatever you choose, I'll go with you. For moral support. Gabby's eyes widened. You would do that? Arya beamed. The fluorescent cafeteria lights brightened a fraction overhead. Yep. What so? What do you think? Gabby looked down at the sheet. I used to run track. Do you like it? I did, said Gabby. I'm not sure anymore. Well, said Arya as the lunch bell rang, only one way to find out.